always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany the heat of summer. And I'm Don Jackson. Around the world on the internet. In the southern hemisphere, it's winter. Here in the northern hemisphere, we're in summer, and it's hot. With Lovers and Other Strangers. From CHFI.com. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. And the high heat of summer. Sly and the Family Stone with hot fun in the summertime. Enrique Iglesias, Bailamos, and Bryan Adams in Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman? Into the heat of summer we go. The term in the heat of the moment can be used to describe more than just harsh words. It can also signal romantic tension in a relationship. There are some wonderful scenes in the heat of a late summer's night in the bridges of Madison County. Do you remember that muggy night when Francesca and Robert danced together in the old farmhouse? Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. And to paraphrase what Edgar Allan Poe wrote, no sound likes to revel more on a sultry night than thunder. But that's not all that we hear. Sound seems to be magnified when the air is heavy and still. Some nights when it's too hot to sleep, you might sometimes lie awake in the dark and listen to the sounds of others who are also trying to get through the night. F. Scott Fitzgerald in Tender is the Night, published in 1934 by Charles Scribner's Sons, wrote, somewhere in the hills behind the hotel there was a dance. And Rosemary listened to the music through the ghostly moonshine of her mosquito net, realizing that there was gaiety, too, somewhere about. Lovers and Other Strangers in the high heat of summer with CHFI.com. Burton Cummings at a barbecue with the folks in the song Dream. And Johnny Rivers slow dancing, swaying to the music. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. It is a sultry day. The sun has drunk the dew that lay upon the morning grass. There is no rustling in the lofty elm that canopies my dwelling, and its shade scarce cools me. The words of an unknown writer. There is very little you can do outdoors to escape the heat, except look for a shady spot to keep the blazing sun off your head. You shouldn't really do any strenuous labor because you could end up getting heat stroke. Save any exercising for late in the day or the early evening after the intense sun has started to set. Keep yourself hydrated with a bottle of water nearby. Lying in a hammock or resting in the grass in the park can take the edge off the warmest part of the day when the sun is directly overhead. Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Beach Boys taking us to Kokomo, Jacksoul on a Shady Day, and Bob Dylan and Lay Lady Lay. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This writing reminds me of the adventure of summer. Catherine Mansfield wrote, "The mind I love must have wild places, a tangled orchard where dark damsons drop in the heavy grass. an overgrown little wood, the chance of a snake or two, a pool that nobody's fathomed the depth of, and paths threaded with flowers planted by the mind. Lovers and Other Strangers, from CHFI.com. Jimmy Buffett in Margaritaville, and Michael Buble with everything, and mentioning a swimming pool on an August day. Lovers and Other Strangers, from iTunes and CHFI.com. As it said in a past issue of Video Hound's Golden Movie Retriever, and I quote, "A lonely suburbanite swims an existential path through the pools of his neighborhood landscape in an effort at self-discovery. A surreal, strangely compelling work based on a story by John Cheever." Unquote. And as Leonard Maltin said in his movie and video guide from 1999, each pool evokes past moments and events. A vastly underrated film. Unquote. The film is The Swimmer that starred Burt Lancaster. It featured a swimmer who swam the backyard pools of homes as he slowly made his way across the city toward his own home on a hot afternoon. It was filmed in Connecticut. It captures the mood, as film critic Leonard Maltin wrote. If you're lucky enough to have an outdoor pool, that's certainly one way to cool off. The water in our above-ground pool has been cool for the past few weeks, but even with a day or so of this heat, it's beginning to warm up. But cool water is certainly welcome in this heat. I've always found this writing so descriptive. It's a short piece that appeared in the August 1993 issue of Glamour magazine's Private Time column. It makes one yearn for the luxury of a backyard pool. And I quote, "A perfect rectangle of aqua blue, cool, wet, shimmering. 80 feet of pleasure in which to evade August's withering rays. This man-made containment of water, just a drop really, compared to the ocean, represents the difference between sweltering, sweaty discomfort and pure, quenching rejuvenation. Swimming pools are our salvation in summer, whether for the simple refreshment of dipping your toes in the water while you read, or the continuous cooling as you swim laps back and forth in steady rhythm. By night, pools are infinitely romantic. By day, they can be serene or raucous, depending on their inhabitants. Their particular permeating scent of chlorine summons memories of childhood summers when we happily spend hours on end splashing and diving until our fingers were furrowed and our eyes red. Pools figure in our fantasies and in our cultural mythology. Think of how often swimming pools play important roles in films, from Sunset Boulevard to The Graduate to Down and Out in Beverly Hills, not to mention the whole genre of swimming pool films with Esther Williams. Memorable pools inhabit David Hockney's paintings, as well as John Cheever's writing. The swimming pool seems particularly American, part of our ethos of creating whatever we want, wherever we want it, whether it's a swimming hole in the desert or on top of a building. Their elegant symmetry, serene clarity, and simple wetness make swimming pools an oasis wherever you find them. Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers, from CHFI.com. Jim Cuddy and Pull Me Through, Norah Jones and Come Away With Me, and Savage Garden, Truly, Madly, Deeply. Do you remember the magnificent pool behind the Great Gatsby's home? Of course, it's where his life comes to an end at the hands of a jealous husband. Who will ever be able to forget the fiasco caused in that magnificent indoor-outdoor pool when Peter Sellers was inadvertently invited to the party? Can you imagine what it must have been like to clean up that pool of soap suds? Or the rooftop pool on the downtown Los Angeles skyscraper in one of the Dirty Harry movies with Clint Eastwood. From the glorious kidney-shaped ones that adorn the grounds of mansions, to another kind, the one that doesn't attract too much attention, in the Ron Howard film Cocoon. That film was centered around a swimming pool where the alien pods were stored. There should be a whole genre of films listed in the movie compendiums for those grand and glorious pool settings. I hope you've enjoyed this hour in the high heat of summer with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you'll tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers from CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.